But on to the big story tonight. The government is moving faster to boost its urban development mission as it plans to splash a whopping 98,000 crore rupees, that's over 5 years. Today, the cabinet has approved the creation of 100 smart cities with an outlay of 48,000 crore rupees. The projects will be completed by 2022 under the public-private partnership model. Not just that, the cabinet also cleared the Atal Mission for Rejuvenation of Urban Transformation, or AMRUT. This will replace the UPA's Jawaharlal Nehru Urban Renewal Mission, or the JNNURM. The outlay for this program, which will cover 500 cities, will be 50,000 crore rupees. The centre hopes these moves will provide the much-needed thrust to its urban development mission. The Smart Cities project was announced in July 2014 in the budget. Countries like Singapore, Japan, France and the United States have shown interest in partnering with India on the project. Joining us now to talk about this is Pratap Padode, the founder director of Smart Cities Council of India. Mr. Padode, appreciate you joining us here on CNBC TV 18. Let me start by asking you about what you make of both these missions, the Atal Rejuvenation Mission and as well as the Smart City project. The total allocation, central assistance I'm talking about, amounts to about 98,000 crore rupees over a 5-year period. But let's talk specifically about smart cities. 100 smart cities with the government will provide central assistance of 100 crore rupees every year over the next 5 years. Too little?
Yeah, I think, rather than complain about the fact that it is too little, I think we should say that yes, finally the whole PET project has been flagged off. So that's a great achievement. But yes, considering the actual requirement which will going forward will be required, this is too little. In fact, in our estimate, nearly 700 million square feet of residential and 900 million square feet of commercial space requires to be built, and along which around 8 urban infrastructure core sector needs are there, which really totally require over a 20-year period around 60 lakh crore, which means 3 lakh crore a year. So if you can do the math, that we are woefully short, but I think, like I said, it's a good beginning.
It's a good beginning, but we're woefully short. But let me ask you about this business of setting up special purpose vehicles to be created for each city and state governments to ensure the steady stream of resources for SPVs. How feasible is that likely to be, and do you believe that private sector participation will be enthusiastic?
Well, I think in the short run already the private sector is showing signs of taking forward the smart city concept, which has been seeded by the Prime Minister, by actually developing their own 1,000-acre and 500-acre kind of townships and smart city concepts. I think those are already in motion. So really speaking, what we are going to see in the short run, which is probably in the next 3 to 5 years, a whole lot of such projects coming up parallel, which will actually give an indication that there is an opportunity for doing a public-private partnership, provided the government can move forward in actually
But why do you feel
land.
confident about that? Why do you feel confident about that? Land, of course, is a separate issue. We've got the private sector currently dealing with broken balance sheets. We're seeing the private sector withdraw from public-private partnerships, whether it's the road sector or any of the other infrastructure sectors. Why do you feel confident that we will perhaps see the private sector participate as far as these two missions are concerned?
See, because the real estate sector development is banking upon any infrastructure project that the government puts up. The moment you have these 100 cities and you actually satisfy one key infrastructure norm, whether it be a bridge or whether it be a waterfront, the real estate development is going to pan out. Like, for instance, the DMIC. I think the DMIC is a good example, where you have a DFCC, the whole freight corridor coming up, and alongside a whole lot of cities are going to come up, which the government has planned. But no sooner will you see this rail track come up, there will be private developments taking shape, because they can take decisions much quicker and they don't need to depend upon land acquisitions from the government side.
Okay, let's now talk about the Atal Mission for Rejuvenation and Urban Transformation, which involves 500 cities. This, in a sense, replaces the UPA's JNNURM scheme with an allocation of about 50,000 crore rupees. How significant a move is this going to be, and what do you see as being the key challenges that this mission is likely to face?
I think this is quite a doable thing, in the sense that we are talking about retrofitting the brownfield cities. And retrofitting a brownfield city is much more comprehensible and doable in the current norms. Of course, there are challenges. There will be, just like how Delhi Metro faced in terms of laying out the Delhi Metro line in a live city, or the Mumbai airport when it actually got constructed. But we have seen that there has been a fair amount of success in actually achieving mega projects in busy cities like this. So I anticipate that in tier 2 cities and so on that the government will actually come up with, we are going to see that this kind of a mission will take place much sooner. Of course, there have to be yardsticks that the government will come out, and every city has to satisfy certain criteria before which they can be given funds. And then obviously the tranches of funds will depend upon their own timely completion and quality checks, etc. So yeah, so it's going to be a challenge, but I see that happening much easier. Yeah.
Well, you're absolutely right, because the smart city aspirants, according to the government, will be selected through a city challenge competition intended to link financing with the ability of the cities to perform to achieve the mission objectives. My final question to you before we let you go, in terms of clarity now, specifically from an SPV structuring point of view, what is it that you would like to see? Because the fine print, of course, hasn't been put out just yet.
Sorry, I didn't get that question. Could you repeat that?
Yes, from an SPV perspective, in terms of structuring to really get the private sector on board, what is it that you would like to see? Because the fine print so far hasn't been addressed.
So I think one issue prior to that needs to be addressed, in fact two. One is is there an empowerment of mayors to handle these cities? Because you have budgets, you allot certain budgets to them, but we need a city CEO actually who is actually accountable and responsible for delivering these projects on the ground. And the chief minister of a state has got far too many compulsions across beyond the city where his time is divided and he cannot narrow this down. So we need one structuring to make a city-specific CEO accountable to this. The second part is organizing the balance sheets of these states, because finally they're going to raise funds for cities. They need to be able to be somebody who is actually lending money to them should be able to hold somebody accountable. That what if things don't work out, whom do you hold accountable? So these two challenges need to be met, before which the SPVs would, because the SPVs are going to get otherwise stonewalled by these two real challenges which will come up.
You're absolutely right. Of course, there's many a slip between the cup and the lip, and this will boil down to execution on the ground. But today, the cabinet approving the mammoth 98,000 crore rupee central allocation for the two missions, that's the Smart City Mission and the Atal Urban Rejuvenation Mission. Mr. Vadode, always a pleasure speaking with you. Thanks very much for joining us on CNBC TV 18.